It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. There are various types of mythology throughout history. There's Egyptian mythology, there's Norse mythology, there's Native American mythology, there's Japanese mythology, but by far, my favorite of the bunch is nevertheless Greek mythology and Roman mythology. Now, there is not a single Bible source for the case of Greek mythology because there are various texts throughout history that has been written down. For example, for the case of Hesiod, he has Theogony and Works and Days. That's like particularly the source where the ideas of Pandora's box as well as the origin of the universe comes directly from. There's also the Library of Apollodorus, which has the whole entire listing of the various accounts of the mythologies of the various gods throughout history. There's also the case of the Iliad and also the Odyssey that was written down directly by Homer. There's also the Homeric hymns, which again is actually debatable among scholars because they think that the Homeric hymns were not necessarily written down by Homer himself. There are various plays throughout history, and also for the case of the Greco-Roman period, there was also something that was known as Metamorphoses, which again is a collection of various myths into one place. Also, when it comes down to the ideas of Greek mythology, I'm actually convinced that some of the stories might have some sort of origins directly from the Middle East, and so for this video, I'll go into more details on why exactly I feel as though that the Middle Eastern mythology from Mesopotamia might have directly influenced some stories within Greek mythology. One of the most famous gods in Mesopotamian mythology is someone that is known as Ninurta. Now, Ninurta, in one of the stories that he was a part of, actually went through trials and tribulations and fought against at least 10 different monsters.
Ninurta, after gathering the enemy in a battle net, after erecting a great reed altar, Lord, heavenly serpent, purify your pickaxe and your mace. Ninurta, I will enumerate the names of the warriors you have already slain. The Kuleana, the dragon, Gypsum, the strong copper, the hero six-headed wild ram, the Magalum boat, Lord Saman Ana, the bison bull, the palm tree king, the Anzud bird, the seven-headed snake. Ninurta, you slew them in the mountains.
The motif as shown in this story is very similar to something that is known as the 12 Labors of Hercules. And basically the story of the 12 Labors of Hercules could be found directly from the Library of Apollodorus. Now, within the story of Ninurta, we find out that one of the monsters that he actually fought was a multi-headed dragon. There's something very similar for the 12 Labors of Hercules, in which Hercules had to fight against the Hydra.
The Hydra had a prodigious dog-like body, and 8 or 9 snaky heads, one of them immortal. But some credit it with 50 or 100 or even 10,000 heads. At all events, it was so venomous that its very breath or the smell of its tracks could destroy life.
For the story of Ninurta, it featured a very terrible lion that went after him.
An enormous hurricane, irresistible, went before the hero, stirred up the dust, caused the dust to settle, leveled high and low, filled the holes. It caused a rain of coals and flaming fires. The fire consumed men. It overturned tall trees by their trunks, reducing the forests to heaps. Earth put her hands on her heart and cried harrowingly. The Tigris was muddied, disturbed, cloudy. The destructive mace set fire to the mountains. The murderous weapon smashed skulls with its painful teeth. The club which tears out entrails gnashed its teeth. The lance was stuck into the ground and the crevasses filled with blood.
Now, for the case of Hercules, there was also a lion that he had to fight against in the story.
The first labour which Eurystheus imposed on Heracles when he came to reside at Tiryns was to kill and flay the Nemean or Cleonian lion, an enormous beast with a pelt proof against iron, bronze, and stone. Although some call this lion the offspring of Typhon, or of Chimera and the dog Orthrus, others say that Selene bore it with a fearful shudder and dropped it to earth on Mount Tretus near Nemea, beside a two-mouthed cave, and that in punishment for an unfulfilled sacrifice, she set it to prey on her own people, the chief sufferers being the Bambineans.
In the story of Ninurta, there is something that is known as the Anzu bird. Now, the Anzu bird makes an appearance in something that is known as the Anzu myth, and the Anzu myth directly inspired like the Illuma Elish. Now, for one of the labors for Hercules, what he had to do is to get as many birds as possible for that particular story.
Heracles' sixth labour was to remove the countless brazen-beaked, brazen-clawed, brazen-winged, man-eating birds sacred to Ares, which, frightened by the wolves of Wolves' Ravine on the Orchomenon Road, had flocked to the Stymphalian Marsh.
One final aspect that's also very similar to the 12 labors of Hercules is the fact that for the story of Ninurta, there was actually like a ram that has like a lot of antlers. There's also a deer for the case of Hercules that he had to basically fight too.
Heracles' third labour was to capture the Ceryneian hind and bring her alive from Oene to Mycenae. The swift, dappled creature had brazen hooves and golden horns like a stag, so that some call her a stag. She was sacred to Artemis, who, when only a child, saw 5 hinds, larger than bulls, grazing on the banks of the dark-pebbled Thessalian river Anaerus at the foot of the Parasian mountains.
Earlier in the video, I have mentioned that when it comes down to Theogony, it was written down by Hesiod, and it goes into great details about the origin of the universe. Now, within the story of Theogony, what happens is that the god Kronos, at some point, cut off the genitals of Uranus and tossed them into the water.
Uranus fathered the Titans upon Mother Earth, after he had thrown his rebellious sons, the Cyclopes, into Tartarus, a gloomy place in the underworld which lies as far distant from the earth as the earth does from the sky. It would take a falling anvil 9 days to reach its bottom. In revenge, Mother Earth persuaded the Titans to attack their father, and they did so, led by Cronus, the youngest of the 7, whom she armed with a flint sickle. They surprised Uranus as he slept, and it was with the flint sickle that the merciless Cronus castrated him, grasping his genitals with the left hand, which has ever since been the hand of ill omen, and afterwards throwing them, and the sickle too, into the sea by Cape Drepanum.
There's actually a story within Hittite mythology that basically predates the notion of Kronos cutting off the genitals of Uranus. Within Hittite mythology, what happens is that one of the characters, instead of cutting off the genitals, actually eats the genitals of the god.
For a mere 9 years, Anu remained king in heaven. In the 9th year, Anu gave battle against Kumarbi. Kumarbi, Alalu's offspring, gave battle against Anu. Anu can no longer withstand Kumarbi's eyes. Anu wriggled loose from his Kumarbi's hands and fled. He set out for the sky. But Kumarbi rushed after him, seized Anu by the legs, and dragged him down from the sky. When Kumarbi had swallowed the manhood of Anu, he rejoiced and laughed out loud. Anu turned around and spoke to Kumarbi. "Are you rejoicing within yourself because you have swallowed my manhood?"
One final example is the fact that there are many scholars that have noted that the Epic of Gilgamesh might have directly inspired the work of Homer. It says right here, "Love the child who holds you by the hand," intersectionality in the Odyssey and the Epic of Gilgamesh. For many years, scholars have noticed similarities between the texts of ancient Greeks and texts from the ancient Middle East, leading them to suggest that the Greeks may have borrowed literary elements from the ancient Near East and creating the works that provide the foundation of Western literatures. As early as the 1600s, people have been trying to find the connection between ancient Near Eastern and Greek literature, and that pursuit has continued to the very day. It is possible that the Odyssey may take much of its overall structure from the Epic of Gilgamesh. At first glance, this seems to be largely irrelevant to a discussion about the possibility of Gilgamesh being linguistically available in ancient Greece. However, a copy of the Epic of Gilgamesh written in Hittite was found in the heart of the Hittite capital, dating from the second half of the 14th century BCE, and since the Hittites were in control at that time period, it is reasonable to assume that the inhabitants of the West Coast would have understood the Hittite version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Epic of Gilgamesh then goes to introduce Enkidu, Gilgamesh's partner, who will eventually fight by his side. That is true of the Odyssey, where Telemachus is introduced shortly after the introduction and will also fight alongside Odysseus. Shortly after the introduction, Gilgamesh discusses Enkidu and his sexual armors with Shemad, who begins to move the plot along, because without this event, Enkidu likely would never encounter Gilgamesh. Similarly, it is Calypso's desire for a sexual relationship with Odysseus that prompts her to spare him when she is shipwrecked, and it's this which finally allows the plot to continue along in the Odyssey. Another similarity is the description of the Cyclops compared to the description of Humbaba. Both are described as giants who eat humans. No one ever returns from their lairs, and in both cases their relics and tales is specifically noticed. The gods are upset about the death of Humbaba and Gilgamesh, but they choose not to respond. The same is true in the Odyssey. Poseidon is angry at Odysseus, but Zeus does not permit him to do Odysseus any harm. And Gilgamesh, Ishtar then seems to be somewhat impressed by Gilgamesh's feat by killing Humbaba, as if it's after the events that she chose to seduce Gilgamesh. When Gilgamesh spurs her, Ishtar decides to go down to the bowl of heaven to punish Gilgamesh and Enkidu. This attempt is unsuccessful, as the heroes kill the bowl of heaven. It is after this that the gods curse the pair and kill Enkidu. Similarly, in the Odyssey, when Odysseus' companion killed the cattle of the sun, the gods killed him in retaliation. It may be significant in that in both texts it is the death of the divine livestock that calls down for the wrath of the gods. The relationship here seems unlikely to be coincidental. In both texts, the heroes also have periods of wandering. Gilgamesh wanders through the world and meets many people, as Odysseus does. There's also a sense in which Gilgamesh descends into the underworld. Gilgamesh goes down to the world of the mountains where the sun goes to die, and the text specifically says that the mountain reaches into the underground. Odysseus also has a descent into the underworld, during which he encounters his friends who has died. Before I end off the video, I want to say this, that ideas don't necessarily exist in a vacuum. So ideas that exist in the past will influence the present, and the ideas in the present will influence the future. Similarly, there will be ideas or theologies of the past that will influence future ideologies and also philosophy and stories, and vice versa in the future. And so as humanity continues to have contact with other artists and other philosophers, their philosophy, their art will also be influenced other people. But what do you guys think? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.